Um,
That's from today's Sichos.
it's from the Chumash. It's not mamish today's chitas. Today's chitas is lo tavaru ish b'chumash reisechem yom haShabbos, and I gave a sheet about it this morning and the contemporary shilas and halacha. The parsha goes on and on and on about the truth is it's so long. I mean, it's not that hard when you're doing chitas.
But it's a repeat of
It's
the.
it seems like a repeat, and everything's repeated like 4 or 5 times.
So there's less Rashi. Rashi
And
does
there's
not
very little
repeat.
Rashi. You know what gets tough when you're trying to do Shnai Mikra Vechataygal. In the Parshas Pekudei, after going through a long, 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 long thing, it says, "Vateichel kol avodas mishkan oil moed v'yatz v'nei Yisrael kachol shetziv Hashem es Moshe kein also." They finished everything, and the Yidden did exactly what David said. The Orachaim Hakodesh says, "Kachol shetziv mit alle pitchevkes." You know this word in Yiddish with the pitchevkes. The
The
weiß
bells
was
and the
it?
whistle.
What does it? Weiß what pitchevkes is? Now a new word in Yiddish.
Yeah.
You can add it to your easy schmeezy Yiddish
Long
booklet.
word.
Mit alle pitchevkes. It's gemacht mit alle pitchevkes. Mit alle hidurim kachol shetziv. Okay. Vayiviu es hamishkan al Moshe es oil moed es kol kelev kros of krosh abricha v'amud v'adonah. Rashi says vayasum ne Yisrael es hamalachot kol shetziv Hashem vayiviu es hamishkan. Shlo yochelim la'akimoy. Why did they bring it to Moshe? Because they couldn't pick it up. Vishlo es Moshe shum malach b'mishkan yechnich lakadosh baruch hu hakamasei. Shlo yochel lakim shum adam machmet kaved akroshen. Shein koyach v'adam lazokva. Moshe hamidei. Amar Moshe lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Eich efsher hakamas al yedei Adam, Amar lo asoik ata biyotcha, v'nire kemekimei v'uniske v'kame elev. Zer shenemar, hu kama mishkam, hu kama elev, medrish rebi tankolba.
Nice.
Okay. Weiter, the end of that whole parsha, it says in Pesach Mem Gimel, Vayar Moshe kol hamalachim, hinu also isa keshetziv Hashem kein also. Vayevorech oisam Moshe, Moshe gave them a bracha. Ashi ve'vorach oisam Moshe, Amar lahem, Yehi rotzen, shetishre shchina b'maisi yadeicha. Ve'hi noyam Hashem alakeinu aleinu v'goyme. U'echad Yud-Alef mizmonim shebetefila l'Moshe. Sifra. The Rebbe had a style about learning Rashi. Mamish, in the 1,000 years since Rashi, there wasn't someone that Mamish put it to it, like, the Rebbe has from a halach that, like, to Rashi wrote his Pirush, the Rebbe said, for a Chomish Lamikra, for a 5-year-old. You can't tell me that the Rashi just threw together a few Midrashim, this ad hoc. Everything that the Rashi wrote was in Pshat. The Rebbe had a whole Mahalach in the Rashi. What's the Rebbe, as Mahalach was, that every Rashi is always coming to answer a question. And what's the question Rashi's asking? It's a question that a 5-year-old might pick up his hand and ask his Rebbe. And everything is based on a certain Mahalach and Pshat. Rashi's Mahalach, the Pshat. And the Rebbe developed his Mahalach over many, many years. The Rebbe started it in Tov Chaf Heil in honor of his mother's Petita, that he would start every day, every Shabbos. The Rebbe would. There was a man in Crown Heights, Mr. Waldman. He wasn't a Lubavitcher. I don't think he's related to this Mr. Waldman here, but I to ask him. He would come to 770 every. He would come Friday. He would try his luck twice. He would come Friday, and he would come Shabbos morning. He would stand by the door, and the Rebbe would pass by, and the Rebbe would tell him which posuk and which Rashi he's going to talk about that week. And he would go around, tell everybody, and everyone would open up the Chumash and the Rashi, and they would look first in the portion.
And then whatever they think the Rebbe is going to talk about is.
It's funny, exactly. Okay. Hardly anyone ever guessed, because our eyes are like focused the way the Meforshim see Rashi, and there are many, many, many Meforshim starting from Rabbi Eliyahu Mizrahi to the Maral Me Prague to Big Doyle Yisrael, but it was very hard to what the Rebbe is going to say. The Rebbe had a style to ask. The Rebbe sometimes picked a tiny Rashi. The Rebbe asked question. There was a guy who would sit behind the Rebbe, Zalman Jaffe, would come from Manchester. The Rebbe would have him count. There was once the Rebbe had him count, and how many questions that I already asked was a tiny Rashi. The Rashi had maybe 15 words. The Rebbe already asked 25 questions. So he said 25 questions. The Rebbe said, no, I'll ask one more question and we'll stop. The Rebbe asked one more question. The Rebbe had an interesting style. The Rebbe would say the Rashi, to all his questions, and then he would leave it, like just in case someone wants to think about it, and we would talk about something else. Then there would be singing, and then he would go back to the Rashi. Sometimes he would summarize the main one or two questions, and then he would give the explanation in Rashi. This is a classic Rashi Sicha in front of us. In Parshas Shmini, there's a very similar Rashi. It says in Parshas Shmini how they inaugurated the Mishkan, and at the end it says V'yave Moshe v'Aaron el Ohel Moed v'yetzu v'yivorchas am v'yede kvod Hashem el kol ha'am. And Rashi says V'yetzu v'yivorchas am Omru Yehi Noam Hashem Elokeinu Aleinu v'yiratzon shetisher shechina b'ma'aseh yedeichen.
Same one.
Oh, the same one. Fische kol shivas yimei miluyim shehem et Moshe lamishkan v'shemesh bo perke b'chol yom lo sharas b'shechina. V'hoya Yisrael nechlomim v'homer Moshe Rabbeinu kol ha'toirach shetorachnu shetish l'shechina b'einenu v'neida shenizkaper lonu avoinu egel. That we worked so hard. Why did we work hard? To have Asheros Shechina. Through that, we will know that the Eibishter forgave us for the Egel. But L'Poel, we don't see Asheros Shechina. Kach amar lahem zeh hadavar shetziv Hashem ta'aseh v'yirah lechem kvod Hashem. Ad anochi kedai v'choshu mimeni shal yidei korbanos v'avados v'tisher Shechina b'chem v'teidu she'amokem bocher bay. If you notice, the Lashon Rashi in the first Rashi and second Rashi is very different. And the most notable diuk, the Rebbe has 6-7 diukim here, but the most notable diuk is in the first time he says Amar lahem yiratzon shetrish shechina b'ma'aseh yedeichen, and then he says v'hi noyim, and this second time, first he said v'hi noyim, and then he said yiratzon shetrish shechina. And there's another 5-6 diukim. Another diuk is that in a lot of the prints it says that the Rashi's source is Sifra. Rashi didn't write the Sifra. Some Chacham printer wrote Sifra. But if you actually look in the Sifra, you say that the Sifra didn't say what Rashi said, and Rashi didn't say what the Sifra said. The Sifra says, "Vayar Moshe es kol ha'malacha v'yivar kais Moshe ma'bacha birchen amalem yiratzon shetish shechina b'ma'aseh yedeichen Rabbi Meir emekach birchen Hashem alakeh v'seichem Yosef aleichem kachem elef v'omer v'heim amru loi v'hi noyam Hashem alakeinu aleinu ma'aseh yedeinu konu aleinu v'chulei." So according to the Sifra, who said what? According to the Sifra, Moshe Rabbeinu said Yehi Rotzen, and they said Yehi Noya. Not the way Rashi says it by us. Kapitel Yud-Alef in Tehillim. I'm sorry, Tzadik in Tehillim. It's the Tehillim of today. The first kapitel doesn't say. It's the first kapitel of today's Tehillim. So yes, Tefillah Moshe. So it's funny. The printer,
the last part.
Taka the Medrash Rabbah says like Rashi. Vayar Moshe es kol ha'malacha v'yivar kais Moshe ma'bracha Omar v'yinoim Hashem alakeinu Amar lahem shetish shechina b'ma'aseh yedeichen. But even the Medrash, the v'yinoim comes first and then Tish Shechina. So why did Rashi, as usual, when I'd like to bring out the Rebbe Shita, the Rashi wasn't writing his pshat 4 o'clock in the morning, falling asleep, a little tired, didn't remember exactly the Medrash. This way, that way, the main thing of the Medrash came out. Rashi is Kodesh Kedoshim, and every word it's Rashi is called Parsha and Dosa. That the Bill Yisrael said that his pshat is, that his mamish the pshat of Torah. So he didn't say like the Sifra. The Sifra said that Yidden said one thing and Moshe Rabbeinu said the other thing. He also didn't say like the Medrash Rabbah because he said it the other way around. Okay, now to all the questions that the Rebbe has. The Rebbe had like a half a dozen questions here. Watch the questions. Mamish Savar Tzach. First of all, what's bothering Rashi over here? What's the question? The Eden worked very hard for 6 months. They built a Mishkan. Moshe gave him a bracha. Something weird that Moshe Rabbeinu gave him. He gave him a bracha. A Rebbe. They get brachas. What's the shaila? What's bothering? What's the shaila? Why? And not only that. I mean, maybe he went out. He said to the Oilim Yashikoyach Matov Cholkeini Ashraina Matov Cholkeini. He said, "What he said? How do you know what he said?" And Fakir Rashi in a way fadretus because the pasuk says Vayvorich, and Rashi says Omer Lam Yi Rotzen Shetish Rishchina B'Ma'aseh Yedeichen. Usually Yi Rotzen is a tefillah, not a bracha. even if you're not a big Talmud Chochem, it's a Mechamish L'Mikra, but even a Mechamish L'Mikra understands there's a huge difference between a bracha and a tefillah, without knowing deep things. Up Chassidus, with the difference of bracha, tefillah is bracha and tefillah are opposites, but it's not the same thing. And then why does it actually start? Omar lahem. It's a very strong statement. Omar lahem. What's this? Omar lahem. And then according to Rashi, there was two parts of the bracha. Not that Moshe gave a bracha and Yidden gave a bracha. There were two parts of Moshe's bracha. First he said Yirotzen, and then he said Vihinoya. Who told Rashi there was two parts of the bracha? Maybe there was one. Who told Rashi? And why does Rashi add Vigoimer? Vigoimer means there's a klal Goimer and Vigoimer. What is the difference if Rashi writes Goimer or Vigoimer? Goimer means that the kol posuk the la posuk Moshe and Peskin, we don't want to create our own psukim. So we quote a part of a pasuk. We say Goimer, say like
the rest of it.
Yeah, there is the rest of the pasuk. It's not relevant for right now. Vigoimer means I want you to read the pasuk inside, because if you read a little more inside, you'll get a little more insight.
So you didn't have enough ink to write it down.
Yeah, but what's more important, I quote, and what's a little less important, I'm not quoting. And we know that the Alter Rebbe and Tanya deliberated sometimes for 6 weeks, Goimer or Vigoimer, Chulu Vichulu, because it was Negei. Okay, so why is Rashi Vigoimer? And then Rashi is giving us information over here. And Rashi is saying a Shaina Medrash. How does that help a Chumash Likkutei to understand the Chumash over here? So it seems like a nice piece of information, and but what's Negeya? What's the Negeya? And then again, the questions that we asked, that according to the Rashi Fadreit Medish, and also the Rashi says not like the Sifra that the Yidden said how much percent Yehidots. And the other question is, why is it that Rashi says here in Parshas Pekudei in one way and Parshas Shmini in a different way? Okay, so this is about 6-7 questions. What's the biur? Rebbe says the pshat is simple. A little child is learning. And Rashi said that from when they got the mitzvah to do the Mishkan to the Mishkan is about more than 6 months. They got it according to Rashi. They got the mitzvah right after Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, and they built the.
How long after the getting the Torah?
They did the Egel in the summer.
Right.
Then Moshe Rabbeinu went up the mountain 40 days and 40 days. He came down Yom Kippur. And Rashi says the next day, Amatz Yom Kippur, he told them the mitzvah of the.
Wow.
And then right we got to work. It took them about 6 months to build a Mishkan. So now the child asks a question like this. It says that they did the Malachas Mishkan, and they brought the Mishkan to Moshe. Moshe gave a brach. Okay, very nice. Makes sense, right? Child asks like this, wait a minute. Who's building the Mishkan? Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry was building the Mishkan. There was Eliyav ben Achisama, there was Ben Salel. There were people. So nicht gewesen 600 Toys mentioned. Too many cooks will spoil the broth. A child understands. There's not going to be 600,000 men working on the Mishkan. You're not going to have a Mishkan. You're going to have everything crooked. Elamite, there was a dedicated team. What did the Yidden do? The Yidden, the day Moshe Rabbeinu announced that we're making a fundraiser, it was the first and last time ever in history, Skeshan Azach. Never again did such a thing happen. The Yidden brought so many Nadavis that Vayaviru Kol Bamacha Gehetas Azach. You think in Lando such a thing would ever happen? No, sorry, please come take your Nadavis back. We can't take any more. Sorry is too much. Never happened again. It happened once. It's never going to happen again. Now, boys say sorry. Then the Nesiim came and they said,
they learned a lesson. Everybody learned a lesson from this one.
Right. They said, sorry, we can't help you. They said, please, can you take? I said, no, sorry, we can't. We can't take.
Come on.
Good. So why wouldn't Moshe Rabbeinu give a bracha then? The Malachas HaMishkan Mitzad the Yidden finished at that point. Why would Moshe Rabbeinu give a bracha to Klal Yisrael then? Wow. Such generosity that the Yidden came with their whole hearts and they gave and they gave and they gave and they gave, and the only thing that was left is to announce to stop bringing, because the oil was bringing too much. You never had such a fundraiser in your life. So why would you think? So why would We see, we're talking about a fundraiser with too much money. Look comes Tanai. So why would you think? So why would Moshe Rabbeinu not give a Yashikoyach at that point? Why is he waiting 6 months later? So therefore, and even if you're going to say that these were the representatives, they were the shluchim of Klal Yisrael to build, still, why didn't they give a Yashikoyach back then when everyone was so generous? So therefore, Rashi says this wasn't Stam Abrach. There was something unique that happened over here. It wasn't Stam Yashikoyach. Probably he gave them a Yashikoyach originally. Or the flip side, maybe you say it's Pashit that he doesn't have to give them a Yashikoyach because they saw his face and they saw it was radiant and there was so much Yachas Ruach. And whatever you're going to say, either they didn't need the Yashikoyach or they got the Yashikoyach. So the shaila is now, why did the Torah not record then that he gave them a Yashikoyach? And over here, all of a sudden, when they finished building the Mishkan, Pasuk says that all of a sudden, so therefore, Rashi learns that it has to be that Omar Lahem, he said something unique to them. The Yidden were worried about the Ashros Hashchina. So and that's why they wanted to have the Mishkan, to know that there was Ashros Hashchina. So Omar Lahem, Yehi Rotzen Shetish L'Shchina B'Maisei Deichem. Who told Rashi this? Because they connect me because that's what the Yidden want. The Yidden wanted Ashros Hashchina. So probably that's what Moshe Rabbeinu said, that they should be Zoichet to get Ashros Hashchina. Someone might ask, but Moshe Rabbeinu himself deserves also a bracha. So Rashi answers in Ochinam that there is a pasuk, a mizmor in Tehillim. There is a mizmor in Tehillim, which is Kapitel Tzadik in Tehillim, which is Tefillah LaMoshe. There's Tefillah LaMoshe. There's a Kapitel Tehillim Tefillah LaMoshe, and over there it's mashma that Moshe is also part of the bracha. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu says, "V'hi noyam Hashem Elokeinu aleinu." Aleinu means on us. Moshe is part of it, and Rashi says v'goymer because it says u'maisa yodeinu koinen aleinu, u'maisa yodeinu koineneu. So Moshe Rabbeinu is including himself with Klal Yisrael, so he was also part of the brach. He was also part of the brach. So a child is going to ask, "Hey, wait a minute. We learned the Medrash in Sifra. He says, and this pasuk it wasn't from Moshe Rabbeinu. And furthermore, you can even say the pasuk says, that the span of a person's life is 80 years. A child knows that Moshe Rabbeinu is much older than 80. Because how old was Moshe and Aaron Bedabram El Paroi? Moshe was how old? 80. Aaron was 83. So now that the Adam Mitzrayim, Moshe is 82, Aaron is 85. And they're going on for a long time. Moshe went on to 120. So someone might say, like the Medrash, that this pasuk v'inoim Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say it. Therefore, Rashi says, no, I'm sorry, it can't be, because who echad Yud-Alef mezamoyre tilim shama Moshe Rabbeinu. From here, 11 kapitlach Moshe Rabbeinu said. So it's very hard to say.
The ones after Tzaddik also.
Yeah, so it's very hard to say that the first Tefillah l'Moshe Shelakim, B'Terem Horim Yeluda B'Toshav and Shadaka. These three psukim Moshe Rabbeinu said. The other psukim, they said. V'Yoshe b'Seis. Come on, because it's all part of the Yud-Alef Mizmoid Metilim that Moshe Rabbeinu said. It's mashma that Moshe Rabbeinu also said V'Hi Noya. So therefore, Rashi is explaining why he didn't say that the Yidden said V'Hi Noya. Moshe Rabbeinu said V'Hi Noya, because it's the Shmistab. Then it says, if you want to quickly look through the Kli Yakar, you have the copy? Kli Yakar is very nice, where he goes through showing how this pasuk is meram is for the Mishkan. Zok the Kli Yakar, Omer Anish Yesherem is nochal al binyan amikdash betchilas hamizbar b'seifer. Betchila Omer Hashem moan ati yisalona b'doyer b'doyer. Tefillah l'Moshe isha l'kim. Adoinoi moan ati yisalona b'doyer b'doyer. What does that mean? Well, there Shama Shlama B'Tfilos, Shechonach HaMikdash, Hine Shom Shom Lo Yikal Kalukha, Avki Abayis Hazeh. That the heavens can't contain the Eibishter. And all of a sudden, little house on Temple Mount is going to contain the Eibishter. The Shama Rakosu, Moen Ata Isalon. The Pasuk says that the Eibishter is made of Moen. Ata Mo'oine Shalom Ve'ena Oilam Mekoim U'moin Loch. As the Chazal say, the Eibush is the Malkum of the world, not the other way around. And Nasa Moifes als a Sherei Beterim Horim Yuludu, but the Chaylu Eretz Vesevel Moil Madel Matakel. So Vim Hoya Kadosh Baruch Hu Tzorech Liskoimem B'Mokim Im Kein Kodesh Nivra Oilam Be'ez Mokim Hoya Miskoimem Elavad Sheina Oilam Mekoimem V'Adrab Hu Yis Baruch Mekoim Umoin L'Chol Oilam Kule Ve'ech Yitochen Sheitzav Eloya Kadosh Baruch Hu Livnis Lebayis Kilu Hu Miskoimem B'Mokim. Auf ze Omer Kemetaretz V'Omer Toshev Enesh Adaka V'Tem Meshuva B'nei Adam. Utzrich HaKadosh Baruch Hu levater al kavoidoi v'latzes loi mod betachtoinim kedei limchol lahem oven egel. This is the Hemshech of Psukim. Tefillah l'Moshe Shilagim. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Adoinu Eibishter, Mo'an ata Yisalonu b'der v'zeh. You are the one. We're going to build a house for you. You made the world for us. B'terim harim yilod b'tachelot eretz v'sevel mo'el mo'el matakel. You were everywhere. You don't need a house. It's the other way around. The Abishta said the Eden should do tshuva because they made the Egel. Because really the Eden was supposed to live forever, but unfortunately now they're leaving only 80 or 70 years because they did Avedis. But now the Abishta said, I'm going to make a Mishkan to show that I forgive the Eden on their sins. And for the end of the Pasuk is Vihinoyam.
But isn't it what is the point of having a house? It was to be able to connect with a certain place, to be able to
show the Eden that the Shekhin is resting with them.
Well, the sun sounds connected, But then, in other words, that was basically the performance of the Mishkan. The Mishkan is like just a place
that Asheros Shekhinah. And you see from the Hemshech of the Pasuk, this Pasuk is really talking about the Mishkan. This whole Pasuk is talking about the whole capital Tilim. Mishkan Kulak Kabara. Almaise Egel. Okay, it's Tavach Kabaras Egel living this by Betavnus. Kol Gimel Oilam Islam Loch Shach Chazel Kamashe Betchilas Koidem Oven. Probably he means like this because the basic mixture of the three main things. There was the Chotzer, there was the Kodesh, and the Kodesh Kadoshim. Connected the three main Oilamas Bri.
The Kodesh Kadoshim was on in the Mishkan already.
Yes, the Mishkan you had a Kodesh Kadoshim, you had a Kodesh, and you had Chatzar Olamoid, and connected the Doiris.
The dirt, by the Midbar, it was only in the Mishkan. It was no Chatzar.
There was a Chotzer.
Oh, there was a Chotzer. Right. They built it out.
They built out a Chotzer. They built out a Chotzer. They never Chotzer. So he said that the base of Mikdash was Ketav and his Gimel Oilam Muslim El Sha'ash Chomer Tzumaysh Charlie Betchila Koidem Oven. We're middle of the Kli Yaakov. See where there's the three dots. Again, it's Tavach Kapara Segel living this night by his Betav is called Golom Oilamas. Muslim El Sha'ash Chomer Tzumaysh Betchila Koidem Oven. Vazed nos na Kadosh Baruch Hu Pisachim Pela Bali Tshuva. Kamam Razal Os Yisrael LaEgel Kedei Litem Pisachim Pela Bali Tshuva. V'zeh Shomer HaKosov Komentaretz Lama Zeh. Amaz etzivin in livness loy ba'is ba'oretz l'fisherotz l'hoshra b'tshuva torah shemen shadaka dershir shumas amadaka zerash toivas dam fira isha kibemaisa egel ovru al shlosha ashloshtam. First of all, they were quite friendly. They have a desire gilaresh v'chos dam and fira kibfruta dam. They Rahman kill people, and also isha k'mashpir rajal they come al tzak shabra gam al. Gilarais Shukadam Rutz, the Barchelton Pix of Pella by the Chuv, Bishlosh, and Zamsham Akasa, a term of Shuv of Ned, and the Kalaba in Shumainea Mina Chuva, Ki Im Hoila Chuva, Bishola Chavedis, Elo Kalva Chemish, Hotel Bakalasman, Achiach, Minel of Shana Benach, Hakol Medab, Binya Chuva, Sher, who I'm Bo Ad Posik, Yerola Bedach Polach, Hozel Dab, Binyan Mishkan, Habona Ketav, this Binyan called Oilum Shia, Pulis Shimizbark, Kalma. Yerola v'decha palacha she'ira shemaechem asetz b'sachal yasek etav nisan v'derech v'hainu ad hadr shchinoscha al b'neim yaklis shal derech ma'amer azal b'rav sholem b'neich al tikra b'neich al b'oiner. Eden built the base of Mikdash.
So what's the?
Wants to show how this whole.
I was always asking myself by Kavi, what's the like? What
that the Eden build?
But why is it al tikri? Why is the? I'm saying is like,
why do we have to have an al-tikre?
Yeah.
There's a geschmack of shalom. Let's leave it right now. B'neim shloishim. Yes. B'nei Pirish Rashi b'neim b'naim kach b'neim amakan medaber b'boinim binyan amishkan shalem amar shirola mahadar ziv k'shchenazachim binyan shalem akam lamed balamedesh amar Moshe yiratzon shetish shchina ma'aseh yadechem mami yinoim Hashem alaken k'shenem avos l'migdash shchant b'toichem loin amen. Betoichem kalach Yisrael. He ikar shchina b'avur Yisrael.
I'm saying a mouthful here.
I'm saying a mouthful. Shenoim Hashem Ziv Hader Shchenosi Yisborach Aleinu. Bottom line is that the Kliyokar is showing how this entire pasuk from from pasuk Aleph until pasuk Yudayin, this entire capital is all talking about the Mishkan, and this is the mizmor that, and the Rebbe says that that's why Rashi says v'hinoyim. Klal, we have a klal yilmad asosam and amefurish. Whenever you have something which is piviferish and another thing which is sosam in the Torah, so you make a shidduch. Yilmad here it's talking about the same thing. Here it's mefurish and here it's sosam. So you have a whole kapitel in Tehillim which Moshe Rabbeinu said, and it sounds like he's talking about the building of the Mishkan. You have a pasuk which says Moshe. We don't know what he said. So the klal, even if for a ben chomish lemikra, is yilmad asosam in a mefurish. You have a kapitel Tehillim, which is, as the Meforshim point out, the whole kapitel Tehillim, all 17 psukim, is talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, talking about the binyan base Hamikdash, the Mishkan, and we have a pasuk saying Moshe Rabbeinu gave them a bracha, yilmad asosam in a mefurish, that this is it. Okay, so this answers all our questions. So again, the question that Rashi has is, "What's mitnavol today?" Moshe Rabbeinu woke up to give them a bracha not 6 months ago, because it was a special thing after it was built. He knew the Yidden are anxious to know that there will be Ashras Hashchin. As we see later in the Yidden were anxious. They wanted to know, they wanted to know if the tshuva is work. So therefore, he said, "Yihirotzu shetish Hashchin b'maaseh Amar lahem," because that's what they were worried about. And in order to be koil himself, also he said, "V'inoim Hashem Alkeinu Aleinu." And in order for someone not to say, like the Sifra, that that part of this capital Moshe Rabbeinu said, and part the Yidden said, they said that really this is one of the Echad Yud-Alef Mizmor Shebetfila LaMoshe. It doesn't make sense. The part was said by Moshe, and part of it was not said by Moshe.
So what's the end of Kisisa where Moshe puts on a mask? Isn't that something similar?
That's not a broch. It's not a broch. Here we're talking about giving them a broch. He gave them a broch.
What's the
He gave them a broch. So what was the special broch? This was the special broch.
Because it shows us that you always have that. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, even though it's nothing to do with him, it's him and Bnei Yisrael like a Baruch.
Ah,
and he was just a messenger, but at the same time, he felt that
yes, to give them a broch.
It's giving them a bracha to make them feel probably good, better. I mean, again, he's the connection. So
we had a Yid that came here once, and he made a big announcement. He's a chassid of the Rebbeinu Shalom. He's a chassid of the Rebbeinu Shalom.
He has a song, Kuchabriku. Tell me, I want you to be my rabbi.
my rabbi.
That's your song.
So here we see
That was the man with a long beard, right? If I remember correctly.
the Yid. So the shaila is why taka. Who says you need a rep? So there's two Maimorei Chazal. One in both in Nigla. One is a Mechilta. It says Vayemina b'Shem Moshe Avdoi. Mechilta says a person that believes in Moshe Kilu is Maimon b'Shem. Second thing is a Gemara, and that's a Gemara in Baba Kama. I'm sorry, Baba Basa. Dafkuf design. The Gemara says Mishech Shachreilu b'Veisa Yelech Eitzel Chochem Shebeiroi V'Yevake Shalo V'Rachem. That if a person has a chayla in his house, he should go to the chochem in a city, and the chochem should ask rachamim for him.
So it means that even a person doesn't go directly for himself; someone else goes for him. Is a
my Rebbe is the Rebbeinu Shalom. So if my Rebbe is the Rebbeinu Shalom, why should I go shachochem shebiyide yevakesh alav rachamim? My Rebbe is the Rebbeinu Shalom.
To the source.
Yeah.
you know the story about the Alter Rebbe Chassidim and the Polish Chassidim versus the Lubavitch Chassidim. The Polish Chassidim can work out for their own the Rabbeim can work out the results for the Chassidim.
Things are good,
but the Lubavitch you have to do the workout.
The Rebbe says we see from here a murderdic thing
Connection
that there is such a thing that they're going to a chochem. Obviously, the Chassidus says it's not chas v'sholom. The chochem is not a separate thing. It's a mamutza machaber, not mutza mafsik.
like he made.
It's tzaddik is bottled to meibishten. But there is such a thing. What's the union of chochem? What's the deal chochem should be eater? The Alter Rebbe says that ezo chochem arois anoil. What does that mean? There's a joke why a woman who's giving giving birth it's called a chachama. Why is it called a chachama? That's in B'loshen Chazal. A woman that's her job to take the baby is called a chachama.
Oh,
So there's a joke. Why? Because he's a chachma, he's an oilet. So what's the pshat? The Alter Rebbe says a oilet means he sees that everything in this world is being created yesh ma'im for the Eibishter. Me and you, we see a table, we see a bottle of Poland Spring, we see a computer, we see seltzer. No. This tzaddik, he doesn't see anything. He sees the Eibishter. So when you come to him, number one, he can diagnose the problem easy. Why? Because me and you, we don't know what the problem is. Because we see pants, we see shirt, we see yarmulke, we see jacket. Huh?
He's reading the code.
Like Haran. He sees the problem. And also, we say that the Consider says that the Eibishter, there's oasis that creates everything. And Shad is how you spin the oasis. So he knew how to put the oasis into a spinner and spin the oasis from chometz into shemen. And that's why so first he can diagnose the problem easy because he's Royas Anoilet. He sees straight through to the neshama. And this week, Taka, there was a lot of the papers had about the 30 years the Istalkas of the Pnei Menachem. Also in the Chabad, in the Kfar Chabad, they're beautiful. A few of the magazines had with several of his sons.
He's buried in the yeshiva backyard.
So the shaila was that he was a very charismatic Rebbe. There was a story that there was one of his chassidim that told him that what happened was he after the war he came to America and he was he didn't look like a chassid. And what happened was he was in Manhattan, talking about in the 50s. So he met a Yid in a lobby of a building. Turned out it was the Rebbe. And Rebbe said, Fana Kim Tayid, Fana Get Tayid. So he said he's a businessman. He's going to New Zealand for a business trip. Back then, going to New Zealand, it's like going to the moon. So the Rebbe said, do me a favor, check about what's going on with the mikveh in Wellington. 50 years later, he came by to the Rebbe to get a bracha. He straightened out, he got married, he was all, and with a beard.
This
Gerechos, 50 years later, he grew a beard. Yeah, and he came to get it there, 1990, 1988. And so the Rebbe looks at him and said, "No, how's the mikveh in Wellington?" So he couldn't believe it. That the Rebbe would recognize him. 50 years. First of all, he met a person back roy. He was there. He didn't have a chassim mazok, and now he has
I gotta have a video of this.
So the Pnei Menachem said, "What's the chiddush? The Rebbe doesn't look at your face. The Rebbe looks through your face. He looks at your neshama. Your neshama.
So he went to the get a Rebbe,
and he asked to get a Rebbe about it. I think that time he wasn't the Rebbe yet. Maybe
it was still
He met the Rebbe was in Manhattan or Manhattan.
Maybe it was before the Nasias. So the thing is that's what the Alter Rebbe says. He's a chochem zet. He's zet arayin. He sees. There was a story that Evetson went. That Evetson used to go. The Rebbetzin used to go to the New York Public Library.
The one
whatever. No, Manhattan. And she used to drive. She'd drive herself. In the early years, she drove herself. They had a car. The Rebbe didn't drive. The Rebbetzin drove. So she gave a book back to the librarian, and the librarian, and she sees the name Schneerson. So she says, Schneerson, are you related to that famous Rabbi Schneerson? She said, yeah, my husband. She says, I'm really angry at him. She said she was at the Yechidus 2 years before that, and she told the Rebbe that she doesn't have children. She asked for a bracha. He gave her a bracha, and 2 years went by, and she didn't still have children. So the Rebbe said, I also don't have children. And the woman started to cry. She said she survived, and the whole mishpacha was wiped out. She was hoping if she had one child, then her family would continue. The Rebbe said, "What did my husband tell you?" So she said, your husband said that I should take one mitzvah. And he suggested the mitzvah of lighting Shabbos candles. It's a very special mitzvah for a Jewish woman. So the Rebbe said, "No, you light the Shabbos candles?" She says, "Yeah. As soon as my husband comes home, doesn't matter how early or late, I light the Shabbos candles." So the Rebbe said, problem is, if he comes home late, it's not a kibbutz Shabbos, it's a chilul Shabbos. Instead of being Chabde Shabbos, you're lighting a match on Shabbos. The Yom Shabbos, the Torah says, I'm not allowed to light candle on Shabbos. She said, I'm going to tell you, she told her where to get a calendar to know what time the sunset. She makes sure to light the Friday candle before the sunset. But if you'll do that, definitely that my husband's bracha is this will be a keli, my husband's bracha. Kachava, 10 months later, she had a baby boy. So that's the chochem. Chochem means, chochem is a royas anoil. Sees.
It can happen, but
there has to be more. It has to be chochem shebe'ira. Why is chochem shebe'ira? So the Rebbe says, the Gemara says a chochem in your city.
Yeah, okay.
Why? Because what does it mean in your city? Shouldn't go to a chochem on the moon. Shouldn't go to a chochem in the next city. So it means like this. That means he's in the city. He's not a tzaddik in Peltz. He's not a tzaddik that is removed from the Welt. That his avodas Hashem is only for himself. It has to be a chochem, which is royas and noilad. Has to be be'iroi. Two things. Number one, he has to be a chochem, which gets X-ray vision. He could see through the person. He could see through the person. He could see in the neshama. He sees what's the chelas, and he knows exactly what's the tikkun that the person could do to be metakin in order to be healthy. If it's a refuas hanefesh or it's a refuas haguf. But it also has to be a tzaddik, which is be'iroi. It's in your city. He's not in the himmel. He's in your city. He's in your place. He's local. Your local tzaddik. So that's the same thing that happened over here. Eden brought the whole Mishkan to Moshe Rabbeinu, and then Moshe Rabbeinu gave them a broch, because that's the two nekudas. A yid, as much as avodas Hashem a yid does, a yid needs to connect to a tzaddik, to Moshe Rabbeinu and the Moshe of every generation.
It has to be in this year.
No, that's what I'm saying. The point is, in the city is not the physical. It means that he's not a tzaddik.
He's on this earth. He's connected to this earth.
Yeah, he's into the people's in Yonam. The Rebbe says that my father-in-law told me that he has two types of chassidim. It's funny, it's funny. The Rebbe said my father-in-law told me he has chassidim and tzoros chassidim. Chassidim and tzoros chassidim. Tzoros chassidim. Tzoros chassidim is people. The Friedrich Rebbe said, when I send them on a shlichus, they're busy. They're busy. They have all kinds of good excuses, but they're busy. They don't have time when I send them on a shlichus. But then when they have tzores, they're screaming and yelling, and they have no chatainis. You want to see a moifus. But the Rebbe said the problem is that he has to be a keli to get the moifus from a tzaddik. And the best way to be a keli to get the moifus the tzaddik is to do what the tzaddik wants. The Rebbe said that Moshe Rabbeinu now wants that we should be mekad of other yid. The Rebbe said an unbelievable thing at that fabrengen. Unbelievable word. The Rebbe said every person knows that the Arizal said that a person that's nizem and mashu chametz muftach lo shlayech that entire year. That entire year he will never sin. I mean, needless to say, they don't take away the chira chofshus from a person. If a person dafke if a person tries really overtime, he'll do a yaveda if you like it or not. They will guard him and show you it won't be. So everyone is trying very careful to have the schus that they shouldn't be nichshel namashu chametz. The Rebbe said, how are you going to guarantee you're not going to be nichshel namashu chametz? You go make matzah and this, you try to be hidden. How are you going to know that you're not going to be nichshel namashu chametz?
And you don't even know it sometimes that you actually.
How do you know? Exactly. How do you know? There's a story with the Tzemach Tzedek. Oh my story. There was one of his chassidim, is very, very mahadir, and he before Pesach he would go to the Mayan, and he would take fresh water, fill up a bucket of water, and that was no one could touch that bucket. That was his water. And he'd bake his own matzah, and he didn't eat anything. He just ate some eggs that he cooked before Yom Tov. He came for Sudas Mashiach. He came to the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek told him, "Run home, check in your barrel of the water." He checked in the barrel. There was a half a loaf of bread in the bottom of the barrel. It was always as if he came back. He was crying. He was crying. He had two questions to Tzedek. Why was he nichshor in such a terrible thing? And why didn't Tzedek tell him till now? So someone said, why didn't tell you till now? You didn't come till now. You came now. And why you were nichshor? He says, because every Yid is relying on the Rebbeinu Shalom to have a kosher Pesach. You're relying on yourself. Wow. So the Rebbe said, the Rebbe said, we want to have a kosher Pesach. How are you going to guarantee it? Make sure that another Yid is having a kosher Freilach Pesach. And that year, when the Rebbe said the Sichos, the Rebbe started this thing to try to get every Yid to sell his chametz. Besides the campaign that the Rebbe started years ago, to try to make sure every Yid has a kazayis matzah shmura, hand round made, v'chulu v'chulu. But the Rebbe started that year when the Rebbe spoke to Sichos to try to get every Yid to sell the chametz, which is not that hard. If you tell a person, there's only a yoitzim in aklal. It was a few years ago. There was a younger man who was a mashgiach in the OK kosher, and he heard that there's a company that 90% of the beers that are sold in the tri-state area is from this company, and they have trucks all around. You see trucks all around. And the problem was they were talking at a meeting at the OK that they heard that the balabos of the company is a Yid. So, and he doesn't sell the chametz. So other things, like, you know what I mean? Like there's a turnaround. You could say in a couple of weeks already. So you say you won't buy the merchandise from this, that you buy from someone else for a few weeks after Pesach. If it's a Yiddish distributor. But beer lasts for a very long time. So they had this problem, and he's the main distributor around here. So it's a true story. They had it printed in the Mishpacha magazine a few years ago. He said he called his mother. It's Lepnach in the Butei Angar in Yerushalayim. He said, "Mommy, you give me a recipe of your kokosh cake." And said the mother makes the best kokosh cake. So he went, and his mother gave him the recipe of kokosh cake. I'm not making this. Is Rabbi Weinfeld. You know Rabbi Weinfeld? Front Heights? Okay. So he said he made the kokosh cake, and he found where this guy's office is, and he brought him. It wasn't easy to get in. He got in, and he brought him the kokosh cake, and he asked if he wants to put on film, and he agreed. Put on film. As they're taking off the film, he told them, "Look, this you're a main distributor of beer in this city. And it's a problem because we buy from you and then after Pesach, it's Chametz Shavuot without Pesach. But you agree that you're going to sell your company for Chametz, sell it to Goy." Explain. I said, "No problem. No problem.
Not losing anything.
No problem." And the kachav from then on, the ceremony they make every year. They go down to the office, and he sells the chametz. Could you imagine a younger man? He was at that time. He was a malamed part-time, he was a mashgiach part-time, he was a busy man with little kids, changing pampers. But he took the initiative. And you said, Poshet, you meet Yidden. Weinfeld. Now look it up, you Google it. I forget the name of that company, distributor. Look, Weinfeld Beer Distributor. Manhattan Beer? So and Adayon, every year they make a ceremony. He goes down. The Rebbe said that how are you going to guarantee that you are going to have a kosher for Pesach? Make sure another Yid. So meet a Yid. The truth is not hard. They have like Chabad has these papers. I designate it. And the person just signs his name or writes his name, even if it can be your shliach. Even if you tell the person, I'll write it for you. You could be a kashor because when you sell to me, you can write all these names and names and names and names and names and names. The shluchim sell through mechametz. I end up giving the goy laposhet, a pound of papers, and it 2 minutes, you got to eat. You convince them to. Sometimes you have to know every person. Sometimes you don't want to explain too much. It get very complicated. Selling your comments. So it could be the either a bissel zan agane gegangen von a goy auf Pesach, nicht gefährlich. No, a bissel agane. Das schon geworden gneve. But the Weile, you got him out of the isur of owning chametz bal yamotza in the days of Pesach, and then also the union of kazayis matzah. And sometimes you have to spend a minute or two because a person doesn't have especially now we already changed the clock, so the sun sets. Even if you go by shkia, which really should wait at least 20 minutes after shkia. So by the time the Leil Pesach, shkia is about 7 o'clock. People eat dinner earlier. They're making a family dinner, so they're calling it 5 o'clock. If I'm Mazbez on Ayid, that the truth is, if they start to say that a little earlier in the Shkefelach,
this is the first night.
But that they should they should wait. You have to look at it, to tell them what time. Because ice matzah, that you have to eat a third of a matzah. Sometimes you have to explain. Sometimes, but that wissen jeder Yid. The Rebbe said, if you influence another Yid to keep Pesach, the Eibishter gives you a special bracha. The Yidden knew that in order to get a special bracha, they have to go to the Moshe Rabbeinu. They brought the Mishkan to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu gave him a special bracha. The Rebbe said, that we should go to the Rebbe and take instructions. And the Rebbe said, my father-in-law's instructions are to influence another Yid, and the Eibush shall help him. That's exclusive by Baruch Moshe. That we should have our own bracha. Eibush shall help him take. We should have a bracha. Bakoil, Mikoil, Koil, Makoshan Afrela from Pesach.
Well,
Herschel, thank you for joining us.
Good luck, yeah. What's over on Friday?
Family member and Lubavitchers. And Mama Shai sit down there.
We're this week?
This weekend, yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Open up a lot of mouth.